Symons. I'm with Civics 307. I also have a nonpartisan Y vote, the mission of which is all eligible Wyoming citizens are informed voters in each election. And I have been coming down here for 7-8 years, identifying that participation and competition are critical to a good democratic republic. I am absolutely in opposition to the idea of making our school boards partisan. I have been a member of the Republican Party for 50 years. I believe in the principles of the Republican Party when it comes to policy, when it comes to that part of policy that is government. It is absolutely critical that our school boards continue to make decisions that are in the best interest of the community and the students and not subject to the requirements of a political party. I know from personal experience that each time I have exercised my thinking and it goes against the party policy, I get called a rhino, even though I've been a Republican for 50 years. That is the kind of labeling that we do not need. First of all, the school boards are always focused on the well-being of our children, not political ideologies. That needs to remain. If they are required to prioritize party agendas over local needs, that will undermine the quality of our education. I don't think it excludes qualified, but it means that every single person who has any interest at all is going to the Secretary of State's point, are going to become Republicans, which is contrary to what the party really wants, which is party purity and agreement with the principles. So it actually goes against the stated ideals of the party. Students, parents, and educators deserve leaders committed to education, not party agendas. We require collaboration that is non-political, always focus on the students. It will increase campaign costs for anybody who does not go into change their affiliation, in that the party will go in and in a general election can put their money behind those who will pledge to the party over public education. We need to focus on student outcomes. That is the purpose of our school system. We all agree that better educated students is what's required, and that's what the school board needs to be focused on, not on partisan politics. These are teacher shortages and funding. Everybody has political requirements. Our school boards need to be separated from that. In fact, again, I can guarantee that I just put a target on my back because people do respond to parties. It is not a more informed voter who simply sees an R and votes. That is not what being an informed voter is. It's understanding who the person is, what their values are, and how they will individually use their judgment. I stand for any questions.
Questions for Ms. Symons? Yes, go ahead, Senator.
You look at the current sweep of Wyoming counties and the way that people are likely to react to this. How many of the counties do you think will have any candidates that are not labeled Republican?
2. Through you, Chairman.
Ms. Symons?
2, Teton and Albany County. Everybody else, every single person who is interested, if you pass this, will become a Republican.
Other questions for Ms. Symons? I just have one. I know the bringer of the bill talked a little bit about voter engagement and voter turnout. And I'm wondering, I try to come in neutral on every bill, and so I'm still there. Do you think this would truly increase voter engagement, or would it have a detrimental effect?
Madam Chairman, I think will have no effect. I believe that ESPC will talk about undervoting, which is the indication of non-participation. Basically, of the 50% of Wyoming citizens who are currently registered to vote, of eligible citizens, 50%, 95% vote in the general election, as opposed to about 70%, including most people who stay home in the primaries are actually Republicans. So the engagement, to the degree that it's there, is already there in the November election. So I think it would have no effect on the number of people that turn out. What the undervote is a separate matter. And I note that not one single bill coming up has really addressed participation. So I am glad that that came up, but I think there's zero impact.
Just a follow-up question for you too. I know the bringer of the bill talked a little bit about, it might make it a little easier for the voters to maybe find out about where these folks lie one way or the other. Do you think I think we're kind of already lazy voters. I will say that right up front. And I know I attended our school board forum, at least in one of the districts I service, and it was very engaging. There were a couple people I didn't know, and I certainly couldn't tell from that forum who might have been a Republican, who was a Democrat, who was an independent, or anything else. I don't know if a lot of voters are like that, though. I don't know if they're just, I'm going to say it again, too lazy to get out and find out about people and do the research. But what do you feel on that?
Madam Chairman, I don't think it's laziness that causes the lack of information, but the fact that people are overwhelmed with their lives. They're busy, and they you know, this last primary, for example, people were sick of things showing up in their mailboxes. That didn't really happen in the November, but there's a sense of overwhelm. And so one of the reasons that I created my why vote is because I actually go to every candidate and ask them to put online for them to say what are their primary considerations. And so what I saw increasingly over the last 2 cycles is that the forums are about political ideologies, the questions are, and not so much, what about how are you going to do policies? How are you going to engage parents? How are you going to engage the citizens? What is your knowledge of the budgeting process? That's one of the biggest things that a school board does, is the budgeting. And there were almost no questions on what is that candidate's understanding of how that works. It all devolved to political pledges. That doesn't help. We need to have ways to make it easier for people to understand who those candidates are. And I agree with you, it's a problem. But we need to work towards increasing that knowledge on an individual basis and not using an R or a D or a U as a substitute for understanding who that individual person is.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your testimony.